Hello, my name is Lucas. This is a bit of lit, and I want to talk about Watership Down by Richard Adams, which is a book that I have tried to read before, but I've only gotten through the first part or the second part the first time I read it. It is a story of a group of young rabbits who escape from their warren in Sandford, which is destroyed by men. And the only reason that they know this is because of a gut feeling that the seer rabbit, Fiver, who is the runt of his group of kittens, as they're called, the younger brother of Hazel, who he tells. And Hazel gets a whole bunch of other people, Silver, Blackberry, Acorn, Bigwig, some other ones too, I can't remember, and tells them, we need to leave. My brother has a feeling he saw something, and he's worried about what's going to happen. And that's what they do. They leave. Not without some trouble, of course, or this novel would not be 600 pages. It is really a wonderful story. All throughout, you get all these wonderful adventures, these moments of fear and tension. You feel for the rabbits. You want them to make it to a new warren, to be safe. Along the way, they come across a warren, the Warren of Snares, as you might call it, or Cowslip's Warren. Or they find a warren that's big and beautiful and plenty of food, but all the rabbits are much bigger than them, which scares them a little because they might be dangerous because they are bigger. However, they don't act like rabbits. There's no rabbit chief. They don't have an outlaw, which is the part of the Lapine language. It's sort of this military group of people where Bigwig and Silver come from, and Captain Holly, who tried to stop them, who will eventually come up again. And in this place, they don't act like humans, or they don't act like people. They are very mysterious. They don't answer questions directly. They sort of are so unlike any other rabbit they've ever met. And it gives Fiver a very bad feeling. And he says, we need to leave this place. As wonderful as it is, as great as the food is, where this farm seems to be leaving some food nearby, this farmer, this man, just enough to attract people. There's something very wrong here. So they end up leaving. Spoiler alert. Not without some trouble, of course. I won't spoil that whole mystery. It is very engaging, very mysterious. What is going on here? Why are these rabbits acting this way? And they find their warren. While there, they make friends with a bird. They come across a new problem, though. They help this bird nurse him back to health and make friends with him, and he helps them along in some of their adventures later on. But they've got no does. They only have bucks, meaning they only have male rabbits. But they need some females if they're going to have this new warren prosper and have children. And I think that's when I stopped reading it, because I was reading it like they're people, because, you know, they have characteristics and traits like people do, and I was just taking it too metaphorically. If you read the way they talk about does, it is kind of weird, but then again, they are rabbits. They are wild animals, so, you know, younger me was silly. But I will mention something about that in a little bit. Anyway, they decide to go searching for does. And around this time, Captain Holly shows up, and he brings a search party out. And Hazel, who is the leader, he decides to go to this farm to find some hut rabbits and try to get some of the does out of there, which leads to more danger, more action, more high intensity where you're afraid for the rabbits and what's going to happen to them and who's going to make it, who's going to be lost. Everyone makes it back, of course, which is a problem I have with the book, that none of the main characters, none of the main rabbits we follow, really, they get injured. But only Hazel, near the end of the book, has a sort of permanent injury. No one of the good guys dies, which I felt like should have happened for the drama of the whole thing. Not that I wanted them to, but it was like, okay, he's really hurt, he's on the brink of death, but he's back, and he's fine later. Anyway, I'm spoiling that for you. It's still wonderful, just so you know. It's a kid's book, you know. It's a story that he told his kids and wrote for publication. Anyway, Holly and his group of people, Bluebell and I forget, Box something, Woodbox or something, I can't remember now. They come back and there's another one, Strawberry, who came from Cowslip's Warren. They have come from Ephrathah, who is led by General Woundwort. I wrote some notes down there. General Woundwort is the sort of dictator of this police state Warren, where they have marks put into their bodies so that they know when they're allowed to go out, so that man doesn't notice too many rabbits all at one place. It's a very clockwork type of situation for these rabbits to make sure that they're in and out of their hole when they should be. Very scary. Again, another group of rabbits in a warren that's mysterious, but they have a problem. They have too many does, and the does are infertile because of the living conditions. So Hazel and his group of rabbits decide, let's send an embassy to see if we can get some of those rabbits, some of those does. Let's get some of them out if we can, because we need does. And that's what they do. They get does. And General Woundwort feels that he needs to defend his honor, defend his power, because he cares about power for power's sake, because he is a very large rabbit that is very strong and wants to prove himself and can't have any insubordination of any kind, can't have anybody making him look weak. So he decides to get revenge and get back his does and all this other stuff. And that's most of the book. Honestly, I will save the rest for you. It's a really amazing story. I do love a lot of things about it. I love the characters. I love Hazel as the leader. Bigwig is this enforcer type character. We've got Blackberry, of course. He's this smart rabbit who comes up with all these plans to get him out of all these sticky situations they come into. Fiver, you know, he's very nervous, but he's a seer. He's very smart in his own way. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of other characters that, Bluebell, he's a jokester. And some of the other characters that are, you know, part of the Warren that we want to see win in Watership Down, a little bit weaker. They're not as pronounced, which is my main problem with the whole doe situation, in that I'm okay with, you know, they're rabbits, they're wild rabbits, they want to have families and all that stuff. Can't have families without does. We barely get to learn about any of the does. It's just a boy's adventure. Mostly we get a little bit of character work with the does. And that is the biggest problem. And if you read these parts where the bucks are talking about the does as sort of breeding fodder, having the I mean, the does are happy to be out of Ephrathah, but it's a little weird. Anyway, the adventure is great. There's Dandelion, of course. He tells stories, and he tells the story of, how do you say that? El-ahrairah, who is this mythical being of rabbit lore, and we get a story in each part, and they're all wonderful. They show rabbits and all their tricks, and it's just amazing how the language is used, the adventures that these characters go on, and the way that stories sort of shape everything in this book, because they're always talking about this will make a great story to tell our kittens when we have them, when we get our does, and things like that. So yeah, this is a wonderful book. I highly recommend it. Main problems I have are just it's a boy's adventure only, mostly, and once you get through it and you see that there was never really any danger because of all the characters end up surviving everything, it sort of loses dramatic weight for everything. Sorry for telling you that if you haven't read it, but it's still exciting and a wonderful adventure, so I recommend it. Thank you. Goodbye.